It's 11:06. Thank you for joining us. So the energy bill cleared its third reading in the House of Commons yesterday.
Now, one of the key climb downs from the government included relaxing regulations around onshore wind farms and effectively making it easier to build them.
That's right. Ministers have sought to quell a rebellion over the bill. Let's talk now to Senior Lecturer for Climate Change Resiliency and Sustainability, John Grant, friend of the show, and North West Leicestershire MP Andrew Bridgen to discuss this. Good morning, gentlemen. Andrew, if we can start with you. What's wrong with this bill?
Well, it's a mammoth bill that started its life in the House of Lords some 14 months ago. It covers a plethora of issues around energy, from hydrogen to supposedly sustainable aviation fuels and everything in between. But I think it's the provisions in the bill that allow for powers to be taken by a minister to declare criminal offences, for a major extension of the powers of the state and intrusion into people's homes to see if they're complying with the latest environmental regulations, see if you've ripped out your log burner or if you're burning damp logs. And I think it's a totemic bill, which I think the vote last night, in years to come, people will very much regret passing that piece of legislation.
Just so people know this, Andrew, because it is quite an eye-opener, isn't it, that people effectively could get a criminal record if they haven't complied with some of the provisions of this bill in this dash to net zero. If you don't have the right boiler, what else could you be criminalised for?
Well, you could be for not complying, giving false information with regard to your environmental credentials of your property or your business. Up to a year in prison and up to £15,000 fine on each occasion. These are massive, massive intrusions, extensions of the powers of the state, and I can only imagine where they're going to end up. All to deliver net zero at breakneck speed when China are allowed to increase their emissions every year of this decade by more than the total UK emissions. I mean,
do you look at your fellow MPs, Andrew? Do you look at your fellow MPs voting for this, and do you think that maybe they just don't understand what it is that they're committing this country to in the future? What's motivating them?
Well, a lot of them are very new. I don't think they do their own research, and they're certainly not acting in the interests of their constituents. Some of the older MPs will proudly admit to me that they've never voted against the government while they've been an MP. I mean, you might as well send a cardboard cutout. I mean, quite honestly, governments don't always get it right, and the job of every backbencher is to hold the government to account and to protect the best interests of their constituents. And I'm afraid very few of my colleagues take that seriously.
John Grant,
because it prejudices your promotion within the party.
Yeah, John Grant, should somebody really face potentially a year in prison if they haven't got the right boiler in their home?
I think what we were saying was that if you lie, then there's a criminal offence there, and this is people's health here. So this idea of greenwashing, especially with companies and the like, has been used just literally as a strategy to improve their economic viability, and it's been blatant. And so the idea that lying is a criminal offence, to me, seems like a good idea. How harsh that is going to be is something to debate, I guess. But it's
But it's not just
issue is awful.
It's not just about whether you lie about the fact that you might have a log burner in your house. It's the fact that you would have a log burner in your house and you could literally get a knock on the door from the police to say, you're not allowed to have that log burner, we're arresting you. Have I misunderstood it, Andrew? Is that the fact?
That's where this legislation could end up. And I can see a situation where people are served with notices saying, you've got to improve the energy efficiency of your property, and if you can't, you won't be able to live in it. I mean, this is Pandora's box as far as the environmental lobby comes. And we're just over 1% of worldwide emissions. We're rushing to net zero while the rest of the world is increasing carbon emissions for at least the next decade. And we're going to place ourselves in a very, very difficult situation with probably debts and costs of about 3,000 billion to hit net zero.
John Grant, it's just counter Andrew Bridgen's argument.
Yeah, I mean, that's just ridiculous in that this is an investment. This is an investment we will get the money back from spending on zero carbon. Jobs,
hang on, Andrew.
less money. We just spent a whole load of money giving money to people to give to energy companies. That's just madness. We could have spent that money on improving people's homes so that they don't have to spend that money. The cheapest energy is the energy you don't use, not the money that we give to the oil and gas.
So Andrew, John, you're actually saying that the taxpayers should not have bailed out families that could not afford to pay their energy and gas bills, because you couldn't insulate in the same time. You couldn't insulate their properties in the same time.
You could.
The government, no, you couldn't. You had to help these families.
Yeah, you could do both. Of course you could do. Of course they needed help. But this is an investment. There is no problem with investing in people's homes when you know you're going to get the money back for what you have spent by improving their homes. So you can see that when we build a factory, you don't talk about how much the factory costs. You talk about what the overarching profit of that factory is over the lifetime of the factory. And that's what you would get here. But this idea of just filling, we've got a leaky bucket and just putting corks in that, and just to stop the leaks and to help these desperate people, which I absolutely agree with, is no solution. We need a solution, and the solution is out there, and it is a resilient solution to a changing climate. We are in an emergency.
But bizarrely, but the thing is...
1,600 scientists, worldwide renowned scientists, wrote an open letter saying that there is no climate emergency, it's a hoax, including 2 Nobel laureates. And what we're investing in currently is buying green energy products from China, solar panels, wind turbines and electric cars that are actually manufactured using fossil fuels. And they're opening 3 coal-powered power stations a week in China. This is the economics of the madhouse.
Go on, John.
All we're doing is exporting the carbon.
Has been done by renewable energy. That's just a lie. That's just a straight lie. That China is emitting a huge amount of carbon. I don't deny that. They are. But, we have to make ourselves resilient, protect our people here in the UK. And that can be done by improving our quality and producing
How can we protect ourselves in the UK if China are increasing their carbon emissions by more than the total UK emissions every year?
The problem, John...
You can't just pick on somebody else. Look, people get killed. There are more people murdered in Colombia than here. That doesn't mean that we stop...
Yeah, but the carbon dioxide goes all around the world. It doesn't just stop here, does it? The Chinese carbon dioxide goes everywhere.
Stop talking over me. Stop talking over me. It's wrong. We are ethically obliged and to protect our people. And you just saying... China is really bad.
John, how is it ethically...
We're not protecting our people.
How is it ethically protecting people by threatening them with a criminal record if they don't subscribe to what some might say, as Andrew would say, are arbitrary net zero figures? That's not protecting people. That's just controlling and terrifying us.
I agree. I'm not here. I'm not a spokesperson for the British government. My God, no, I am not. They are an abomination when it comes to sustainability policies.
Right.
What I want is real investment in our people's future, not punishing people. I hate using the stick because when there is such a fantastic carrot out there of making people's homes zero carbon.
I'm happy with that. With the homes, I'm with John.
China.
But John, what about the people who say, I can't afford to replace my boiler?
Yeah, there needs to be support for them.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right, mate. You're absolutely right. And the good news is that when we support them, we get the money back for supporting them. This isn't just a cost. It often gets labelled a cost of zero carbon rather than an investment in the future.
Andrew, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but I think this is probably one point that we would all agree on. If we concentrate on insulating a family's home, an individual's home, that person has fewer bills, they generate less power, it's better for that family. We all agree on that, don't we? And yet, is there enough about that? Is there anything about that in this bill, Andrew? Is there anything about that? Because, frankly, I think the government should have criminal charges if they don't help people insulate their houses and every new built house. Go on, Andrew, last word.
Well, not all houses are capable of being
right.
raised to a high environmental standard. But what I have supported for a very long time, for over a decade, is we should be insulating new houses better. It's so easy to do it when you're building. Why not? Well, I mean, we've actually, in North West, we've actually built zero carbon houses that they're so well insulated, they don't actually require any heating at all.
Yeah.